What's good? What's good? Peace, love, and light. You now in tune. You know what it is. Hit the subscribe, hit the thumbs up, hit the notifications, do all those necessary things. So yeah, man, I want to make this my last card video. I'm tired of making card videos. It never really was my thing, but it kind of became convenient, as something, it's something like just came on my mind. I wanted to talk about. I could just do it like right there on the spot. So it's kind of convenient, but I'm sick of making the card videos. But I was thinking about something, man. I was reading a document last night. It was a document from the 1800s, and it was, I believe, somebody from Britain. I forget his name, but the document was about slavery. And he was basically mad at the abolitionists, the people who wanted to abolish slavery. He was mad at that. He was pro-slavery. And so basically what he did in a nutshell is that he used the Bible to substantiate that slavery was good. And he just, I don't remember any of the talking points that he used. I don't remember any of the talking points that he used. I didn't read through the whole document. It's like a 30-page document. I didn't read through the whole document. But the gist of it is he's using the Bible to substantiate, why slavery is good. And he also suggested or said that, slavery is good for the master and slavery is good for the slave. So this was his mind frame, and this is what his mindset was. So the first thing first is to, all the religious people out there, and to all, of the Christians, this is something that you need to look into so you can maybe understand those who choose to walk away and do something different. Not saying that you need to hate them, but maybe you could understand when you see these type of things and you read this document and it's like, okay, maybe you can understand why somebody will be turned off, from that religion, from that perspective. But what I'm here to talk about is something a little different. But it's just to give you an example of where I'm coming from. And so, if you've been following my channel, if you've been tuning in to the things that I've been saying through the years, is that, another one coming? You would know and understand that, that the original documentation and the Bible, the original Bible, we really just don't have it. And through the Gnostic texts and through the Gnostic texts and through the activity of the Roman Church, through the burning of the books, and through all of these different things that has been done over and over throughout history, we know that it will be, it wouldn't make any good sense at all to believe in an English Bible. To believe in the English Bible. Because the truth of the matter is, these people have been changing history since the beginning of time of their rule. And, that's just the absolute truth. All right. And, and this talking point can go into many different areas because it's an absolute truth and an absolute fact and an absolute reality of this world, of what I'm saying to you right now as it pertains to Roman and as it pertains to Rome and as it pertains to the Catholic Church. So, you know, you will hear about, or you may hear about, how the Bible comes from older stories, which is true. The Bible comes from older stories, from antiquity. You know, great stories, great spiritual, esoteric, knowledge. All right, this is where this stuff is coming from. And you have to read a variety of books to really extrapolate that knowledge and to really get that. So, you know, the knowledge was passed down through the priesthood and through those that was carriers of the knowledge. But what began to happen is that, you know, once people came in power who didn't really have, who really didn't have a love for the knowledge, who really didn't have a love for the information, really who didn't have a love for the mysteries, they had to begin to write two stories at once. All right, they began to have to write two stories at once. So when these shrewd people began to edit these stories, because you got to know that these people wasn't scholars, they wasn't priests, so they couldn't do this stuff on their own, but they wanted to control the narrative. So they wrote two stories at once. They wrote a story to make them happy, and they wrote a story for the initiated, for those that understand and for those that know can also still get the true story. So so inside of that new form that they sought to write for the new rulers, is still the sciences inside of it. Now that's one. But then you got to understand that in any way, shape, or form that they see fit, or that they identify anything that pertains to divinity, anything that pertains to the soul and information of the soul and any type of gnosis, you know, they was scratching it out, they was getting rid of it, because they wanted to do nothing but rule, and they wanted to do nothing but enslave their subjects. All right, they didn't want them to have any knowledge, they didn't want them to be able to poke their chests out, and they didn't want them to be able to leave leave from under the foot of their power. So things were changed constantly and constantly and constantly. Things were changed. You know, and you got different groups of priests, you know, extrapolating knowledge from the ancient past and bringing it to light in a new day and time, in a new day and era. Just like any scholar or initiate would do. All right, but to cut a long story short, things were changed. And so I say all this to say, because I believe that I may be the first person saying it, so I want to make it clear for the record. We have a narrative in the Bible, all right? And this made me think about that when I was reading that document as it pertained to slavery, how they used the Bible to justify slavery. But you got to understand that some things had to be tweaked for them to do that, because they're not reading from the original documents. They're reading from their version. They're reading from their version, okay? They're reading from their version, and it's substantiating slavery. So I'm under the assumption the Bible talks bad about Egypt and Ham. They say Ham is supposed, or Ham is supposed to be Africa or whatever, and Babylon. But Egypt is represented as Mizraim. Now, this is very important to know and to understand. Now, first of all, I already brought out that the Bible is an esoteric document. It's not a history book. And you got people who just love the Bible and they want it to be real because they just feel like it's going to lose its validity in the minds of people if it's not seen as a concrete actual document. But it's really not a concrete actual document. That's not what it is. That's not what it was ever meant to be. But anyways, so Egypt always represented esoterically. Egypt, or Mizraim, always represented the physical body, the lower realm, so like the lower nature. So when you become spiritual, you don't just live in the flesh, you live above the flesh. You know that you are a God-like soul, and you're not just a body. But there are people who just live in the Bible. There are people who don't acknowledge the soul. There are people who just live in the fleshly nature. All right? But that's what Egypt represented. Egypt represented the physical body, the fleshly nature. That's what Egypt represented esoterically. But Egypt is identified as Mizraim. Now, this is important. What ancient documents, and when was there ever a city called Mizraim? Because this is important to understand. Even though I don't speak a different language from any other country, whatever city that's identified, I'm going to call that city by the name of that city. I'm not going to rename the city. Right? So if I'm talking about a city somewhere in Asia, I'm not going to just give it a name that I just choose to name it at that particular point in time. When I refer to that city, I'm going to call it its name. Whatever that city may be, I'm going to call it its name. Let's say the city name is Joseph. I couldn't think of nothing. So let's just say the city name is Joseph. In a different language from what I speak, if that city name is Joseph, I'm still going to call the city name Joseph. I'm not going to rename the city. Egypt was never called Mizraim. You're going to call a city name by its name of that day and time. So you're talking about, you dig what I'm saying? So come on, y'all. You gotta put your thinking caps on right now. You gotta think. I need y'all to use y'all brain. This is common sense. This is common sense. So, what was the name of Egypt during the time that these stories was written? What was the name of Egypt during the time these stories was written? We know that Egypt called them. Well, you know that the name Egypt come from Hecapata, what the Greeks later called Egyptus. All right. So what was the name of Egypt during that time? What was the name of that place? What was the name of the known? What did the people call it? You see? Because, it was traffic in and out of Egypt. It was traffic in and out of Egypt. All right. And when Alexander came in, he didn't rename it Mizraim. It wasn't called that. It was called Alexandria. So if you want to identify a place and you want everybody to know the place that you're talking about, you're going to call it the name that is most commonly known about around the world. Egypt was well known around the world because Egyptians traveled all around the world. Now this is fact. You can find this easily. You can find this information easily. Egyptians traveled all around the world. They traveled to the Americas. They traveled all up in Asia. You know, Asians travel all in Africa. So people knew who and what Egypt was, or at least heard about it. And you know, so when can you find Egypt in ancient documentations being identified as Mizraim? No, that's a biblical narrative. And this is where a lot of problems come with the Bible, because there is no history to substantiate anything. So you can see clearly that the Bible has been tampered with way too much. Why? I'm going to tell you why. Because the truth has been covered up, ladies and gentlemen. The truth has been covered up. The same thing that happened with the Bible is the same thing that happened with history. And it's the same thing that keeps happening with everything and everything and everything else. Why these people are in rule. This is what they do. This is what they do. So I'm going to be the first to tell you that the original documents of the Bible probably wasn't anti-Egypt. And I'm just gonna make that clear. And it really isn't no way to prove it, because they got rid of the original documents. They got rid of it to hide the truth. You know, a lot of these books only go back to really recent times. You know, a lot of these books is really not that old. You know, a lot of these books is really not that old. You know, you're talking about biblical times, and you would think that this stuff is thousands and thousands of years old, but they don't have the documentation. You know, why wouldn't, if this book is so sacred, you know, why wouldn't they still be holding on to the original copies and original artifacts? But you can't find them. So, you know, it's a lot of bull going on as it pertains to biblical literature. So we know that these things are more recent because they keep getting retouched up. They keep getting retouched up. You know, they keep getting retouched up. You know, and it's esoteric. It's an esoteric manuscript. It really is. And that's why these things keep getting touched up, because somebody want to keep hiding and somebody want to keep putting their version on it. Somebody want to keep putting their spin on it. But that original document, but that original information, but that original story, you know? So, yeah, man. Show me in ancient times of anywhere as it pertains to Egypt being called Mizraim. You know what I mean? You can't just... So, you know, that was just placed on it. That was just placed on it. You know, so somebody took these names and took the storyline, and they, you know, and they just placed it on there. Okay, this means this. This means that. These are this people. These are that people. And it just, you know, just to fit the narrative. You know what I mean? And they just superimposed. You know, they just superimposed places on these stories when they don't know what the hell they could have been talking about. Honestly. Because Mizraim, that's Aramaic. I do know that much. That's Aramaic. You know? And it's probably Mitzrayim. Because it's probably with a Saudi. which makes a TS or a TZ sound. Mizraim. I'm not sure if it's a Zion, Mizraim, probably Mizraim, but I'm not sure because I haven't looked, at the actual word. But even we know when we dealing with the Hebrew, we know that had to be scholarly brought back to life because it wasn't spoken for a period of time. It wasn't spoken for a period of time. That's why Aramaic and Arabic, that's why it's a connection there, because the Arabic comes out of the Aramaic. Why? Because someone chose to cover some shit up. somebody chose to cover some shit up. You know what I'm saying? They wanted to cover some shit up. So the best way to cover some shit up and make it your own is do what? Put your own spin on it. So they done created a whole new joint. You know what I'm saying? They created a whole new joint. They took it from the Aramaic and moved it to the Arabic. You know what I mean? So it's a lot that's been transpiring in history, because human beings, as it pertains to power, are egotistical. You know what I mean? Egotistical maniacs. These people that usually rule and become in power are egotistical maniacs. I learned about Ramesses from Renoko Rashidi. I actually got to join him in an exhibit that he did in Detroit in the Art Museum, and he talked about how Ramesses, when he became into power, basically Ramesses was an egotistical maniac. Like, he took all of the statues of other people, he made everything him. It was Ramesses everything. You know what I'm saying? All the statues that wasn't even him, he turned it all into him. And that's just an example, what happens when people come into power. It's just a human flaw. So I say all that to say, man, biblically, you can go down a rabbit hole. You can try to go back as far as you can. It's going to take you back to the ancient world if you study it correctly. So all you people that's just stuck in the biblical lore of what it is now, you kind of just doing yourself a disservice if you don't do what it takes for you to fully understand what it is that you actually holding and reading and things of that nature. You know what I mean? But these stories in this book, it comes from the highest wisdom of the ancient world. So yes, it's filled with high wisdom, but you got to understand that a lot of egotistical maniacs and crazy and evil people has had their hand on that book. So you're going to have to do your best to study and cross-reference your best different time frames of these books, so you can kind of like see. And a lot of times this don't happen. You do have people, who will translate things of that nature, who will translate and show you the differences of things of that nature. But a lot of times they really don't want that to happen. So you're not really going to get a lot of that, because you're dealing with a book that's put in place, that was recreated to enslave you, going back to the original document that I was speaking about earlier, when the guy was using the Bible to substantiate slavery, speaking about the abolitionists. So the Christianity that we got and the Bible that we got now, it was actually written in a way, for slave owners, the English Bible. But that's not the original Bible. And that's not, so it's a lot to it. So I hope y'all really can kind of get that. So if you really, it's a lot of study that goes into this. If you really want to kind of like break the chains, if you really want to still get the Jews from the ancient world, if you really want to do that, you're going to have to study. You know what I mean? It's not an easy thing. You know what I mean? You're going to have to do a lot of looking around. You're going to have to read some books, you know. And that's just pretty much what it is, man. All right. And so, you know, that's my talk for today. That's my piece for today. I think I want to end it right here. I didn't anticipate this video being this long. So, you know, peace, love, and light. Peace to the gods. You know what I'm saying? Peace to the kings and queens. Peace to the righteous ones. Peace to my city kings. You know what I'm saying? Hope you have a blessed new year. You know what I'm saying? More blessings and more abundance to come your way. Subscribe to the channel, y'all. Hit the thumbs up. Share these videos out. You know what I mean? Let's get it going. Let's get a good new year. And let's just keep it all light. Peace. I'm out.